When I was 8 years old, just a couple of months before my first communion, my mother took me to a small religious store to order my communion remembrance cards. The store smelled of candle wax and old books, and soft hymns played in the background. As my mother spoke with the shopkeeper, my eyes wandered over the shelves filled with religious items, rosaries, medals, prayer books. Then I saw it. A 12-inch high statue of the Infant Jesus of Prague stood on a wooden pedestal painted in rich reds, blues, and golds. Something about it captivated me. I stared at it, admiring every detail: the gentle expression, the tiny raised hand in blessing, the ornate robe. My mother noticed and followed my gaze. "Do you like it?" she asked. I nodded eagerly. She checked the price tag, but I saw her expression change. We were poor, and a statue like that was a luxury we couldn't afford. She didn't say it outright, but I understood. With a gentle squeeze of my hand, she led me away to the counter, and I didn't ask for it again. The day of my first communion arrived. I was dressed in white from head to toe. My veil, my gloves, my shoes. All the girls looked alike, standing in neat rows in the church. Sister Adele, our teacher, beamed with pride. I wasn't nervous. She had prepared us well. After Mass, we returned home, where my parents had prepared a small gathering with family. There were plates of cookies, a homemade cake, and warm hugs from my aunts and uncles. Then came the moment for gifts. My mother handed me a neatly wrapped box. With careful fingers, I untied the ribbon and peeled back the paper. Inside was the statue, the very same Infant Jesus of Prague I had fallen in love with at the store. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at my parents in disbelief. "You remembered?" I whispered. My mother nodded. "It was important to you, so it became important to us." I was overjoyed. That statue became my treasure. I placed it on my dresser, where it stayed for many years. When I got married, the statue left my childhood home with me, finding its new place on my night table. It was my constant companion, a reminder of love, sacrifice, and faith. Then, one day, my youngest son found it. In his playful curiosity, he picked it up, and somehow the head loosened. The plaster had weakened over time, and the tiny cracks around the neck gave way. Though the statue had an inner metal structure holding it together, the head now drooped slightly to one side. I didn't know how to fix it, so I carefully placed it on a shelf in my closet, away from harm. Years passed. My children grew up and left home. One day, as I was cleaning, I found the statue again. Its face was faded, its once bright colors now dull, but it was still my infant Jesus. I placed it back on my night table, head drooping and all. By this time, the statue had been with me for 51 years. One afternoon, my mother was speaking with her cousin Joan. She mentioned my statue and how much I cherished it, despite its damaged condition. Joan's face lit up. "I know someone who restores old plaster statues," she said. "He's a member of my parish. He's very good." At first, I hesitated. The statue and I had never been apart, but I wanted to see it restored, so I agreed. For weeks, Joan kept us updated. She knew how much the statue meant to me. Then the day finally came when the repairman returned it. Joan, who volunteered at her church's gift shop, had the statue in her care, waiting to bring it to me. But tragedy struck. During a busy afternoon at the shop, someone stole it. Joan was devastated. She called my mother in tears, ashamed and heartbroken. "I can't believe someone would steal from a church," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." When my mother told me, I was shattered. A deep sadness filled me. I kept thinking, I should never have let it leave my house. Joan couldn't bear the thought of what had happened. That Sunday, she went to the parish priest and told him the story. The little girl who had fallen in love with the statue at age 8, the sacrifice her parents made to buy it, the decades of love and devotion. The priest listened carefully. Then he made a decision. At every Mass the following Sunday, he stood before his parishioners and shared the story of my infant Jesus statue. He spoke of love, faith, and sacrifice. And then he made a simple request. If the statue is returned, no questions will be asked. A week later, Joan was once again working at the gift shop when she turned and saw it. The statue was back. No one knew who had returned it. No one saw it happen. It was simply there. She called my mother immediately, barely able to speak through her tears. "It's back," she whispered. "It's really back." 10 years have passed since that day. My infant Jesus of Prague still sits with me, proudly displayed on my desk. I am now almost 70 years old, and the statue has been with me for 62 years. Sometimes I wonder what will happen to it when I'm gone. I worry about it being lost, abandoned, or forgotten. A part of me even wonders, if allowed, whether it could be buried with me, so it never has to be apart from the person who loved it for a lifetime. I remind myself of one thing. What God gives, no man can take away.